Like the majority of people aren't horrible.
Right.
It's the silence. And being
Yes.
is the allowance of the horrible, because most of us don't have the courage to check people. So we
Hmm.
sit adjacent to horrible, and so therefore we get co-opted into horrible, as opposed to checking horrible. But when there's options, when there are other options, I feel like people
For
will
sure.
come, and because most of us want peace and harmony and happiness and joy and laughter.
Yes.
Most of us, I can't imagine people who just want to sit in Scroogeness
And if
and
you don't
Grinchness.
if you don't spend time looking at nobody else's like checking account, like you can be quite happy. Like we at the Black Guy Tips, I was saying this, we're having our annual Black Friday sale, right? I think today's the last day. And people have been showing up and showing out and supporting and paying and all this stuff. But there were some people who were like, man, I can't afford it. I wish I could. There were people within our fan base that paid for other people so they could go be behind the paywall. Like I like maybe they already got too much content, whatever. They just like, but for you, you want to be behind, I'm gonna hook you up, right? And it made me emotional because I was like, look at y'all, like good people helping finding good people. You know, like we I think especially coming out the election, it's been like a lot of like cynicism, a lot of like how we gonna make it, you know, a lot of ain't we lucky we got them, you know, it's been a lot of that lately. And I feel like sometimes you right, we forget that it's a lot of good people out here. And you know, just because they're not out here necessarily promoting their goodness constantly and they're not constantly trying to like blow up their spot there, they just be helping and they just go back to doing what they do in life. Sometimes I do forget how many of those people there are out there.
So many more. And I have the luxury and the pleasure of sitting behind a paywall with people who are just like that, who average corporation, they don't even know these people exist. They dismiss and overlook. I mean, how we got overlooked by a whole presidential candidate. I'm like, as if this ain't the most influential
Yes.
audience anywhere, but okay, but in that though, I think there was a blessing, because when we do show up, you don't see us coming. So
Mm-hmm.
we about to flip the tables. And you
Mm-hmm.
won't know where it's coming from because you don't see us, and it's
Yeah.
okay. And because we're connected, because I'm here, but I'm very stealthy in my life. Like I move like mist and smoke, because
Mm.
you ain't got to know who I'm connected to or who I'm friendly with or who I talk to,
Right.
who I'm pressing, who I'm
Mm-hmm.
demanding things of, for the better of all of us. But that ain't for public consumption. Just as long as the stuff
Right.
gets done, you ain't even got to know how it got done. The stuff got done. That's, I
Right.
mean, but that's got to be how it is, right?
Yeah. Nah, we're
Like,
gonna need that because I
yeah,
think this next however long it's gonna be a lot of opposition. Like people let opposition get in power, and not that power isn't almost always opposed to like like movements and people, but like you get a chance to pick your opposition. Sometimes you pick an opposition that's like, you know what, y'all right, Black lives do matter. My bad, go ahead and do your thing. But sometimes you pick people that's out here like get their cell phone information, they marching. We want to know where they at, what sites they on, and we let those people be in charge this last cycle. And so I do think there's a value to like that inner community that, hey, we know what the plan is. We are coordinated. We're not necessarily broadcasting the plan to everybody because that we want them to pop up and not and be surprised. We want them to be like, oh, we didn't even know they were community funding this thing for us to shut it down. You know, I think we got very loud over the last like 4 years when it came to certain type of projecting things. And I don't mean this. I don't even mean this as a detriment to people. I think their hearts was in the right place, right? But we got very loud with like this fund is for Black people only or whatever, and it allowed people to empower to shut things down, right? They're like, oh, sue them. You know, we got to shut that down. As opposed to maybe we're having funding, we're raising funding for people. Everyone just happened to be a Black woman. We didn't call it the Black Women
how,
Only Fund,
what?
but it
How did
just
that happen?
who knows? Who knows?
Wow!
What a
Everyone who
random
applied happened to be Black women. This is amazing. It's
it's
amazing because
amazing.
yeah,
6% of the population got all the money. That is amazing, but you don't
historic.
have to
Yeah,
project it. You don't have to like put it
correct.
out there.
I couldn't agree.
I think we
I
got to
couldn't
go
agree with
back
you
to
more.
that.
I think you're so spot on. Well, there was this is the trick when you bowl for dollars. Remember that
Mm-hmm.
TV show, Bowling for Dollars? When
Yeah.
you bowl, I am old, so I'm realizing also. I would have this conversation with you today, Roderick, because
Mm-hmm.
yesterday I had a brother on who is a bid whist expert, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to doing some things with him. He's going to be at the conference that I'm having in Galveston on Juneteenth next year. But he brought back all of these memories and all of these things. But yeah, like to your point though, we never used to move like I've been thinking about the Montgomery bus boycott because this was the month that it started in
Mm-hmm.
1955, and it's like flyers in a church basement handed
Mm-hmm.
out in the community. You go back to the Pullman porters delivering news from Chicago and Detroit and all these places and making sure that people knew when the next thing was. I mean, we didn't have the internet, we didn't have cell phones, but folk knew where to go, how to get there. And before you know it, there's a whole boycott that's going to last a year because people were prepared and they had planned and they had studied and they had organized and they trained like a marathon, and it worked. And you're right. But I was going to say, corporations have put us in this space where we're out there. I was sharing yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
I was watching Gladiator last week,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a scene when the gladiators are coming into the Coliseum, and the people standing out, and they got their hands, give me, I'm hungry, give me food, and
Mm-hmm.
they're like, give me, and I'm like, we're so busy. Oh, corporations have money. Okay, let's put together this proposal so we can give me. But you ain't even really have a plan of action for the next 100 years. So now, when that funding runs out, what's the plan for the next? Like
Right.
Harvard has an endowment. They don't even
Right.
need your little funky ass tuition because they're good for
Right.
the next 200 years off of their endowment because they invest that money. Most of the pensions that we get invested, we haven't even thought. We was like, gimme. So we're standing there
Mm-hmm.
putting together the plan because this is where they're giving out black people money. But
Mm-hmm.
then it's always going to dry up. I was
Yep.
saying this to somebody yesterday. There's going to be right now, DEI is done. But
Mm-hmm.
there's gonna be another wave because somebody gonna kill somebody. Unfortunately,
Yep.
we're gonna be outraged. There maybe gonna be another pandemic because the
Mm-hmm.
who we got in office. Something's gonna happen. We're gonna be sit down somewhere and be mad because the belts are tightening, and then the corporation's gonna be like, "Oh, let's release the pressure on the Negroes because they're about to
Yep.
pop. Here's some money, and they know, but it's a short window. And while you out there grabbing, you're not building, you're not creating. You're sitting there with you and Karen, 300
Mm-hmm.
and seven. Oh, excuse me, 3,000. No, is this 306? No,
3,000. Yeah.
3,017. You have 3,017 episodes of a podcast that millions and millions of people may not know about, but has
Right.
sustained you and your wife for 15 years.
Yeah. That's what I was thinking about during the Black Friday thing was like, I'm so thankful because that is mostly black money, number one. And not that we do some type of like special, like only black people, like we just talk the way we talk about the topics we want to talk. Black people like it, and then they come in, and I've heard so much negativity within and without the community that's always like, we don't support each other, we don't do that. Has not been my experience. I have been supported. I would also argue possibly only support it. You know what I mean? Like if I'm being real, like I don't think I could have made it if I was waiting on some white folks to like, make a company and then create a podcast and then ask me to host it. It's been a lot more fulfilling this way. And I think a lot of times people cut that avenue off. The cost of that is, as you said, we could be a more popular podcast. I'm sure of it. We could be we could go to certain people, be like, listen, what's your budget? Can you pay me as a host? You own everything. I'll say what you need me to say for the most part, and we gonna get this thing popping. My name will be on the front. But one day you could wake up and be like, Black podcast. I think we're done with that. Cut that budget expense. And Rod don't got a job. Okay. I'm on the
Correct.
streets, and they normally own your IP, which means Rod can't even take his show and be like, guys, it's okay. Come follow us over to this website. It's like, no, you're done in this town. And I think that I'm willing to give that up so that I don't have to live like that. I like
Listen,
the idea of being like, it's ours. It's as big as it needs to be. I ain't never really gone hungry off the podcast. You know what I'm saying? So people, we got more than enough. And that's fine. It's the greed, I think, that really kills. When you,
yes.
like you say, you put that hand out and you be like, but they got the $1 million. And it's like, yeah, but it's a cost of that $1 million you're not thinking about.
And to your point, I remember Wendy Williams said this. And as she has diminished beyond the point of return, while, we can talk about her contribution to this country in the form of a Charlemagne and this kind of
Mm.
toxic way in which we communicate, especially around our own celebrities. She also delivered nuggets. I did 5 books with her, know her very intimately, in terms of how she thinks. But she said being a thousandaire is pretty good.
Mm.
Bills paid if don't live above your means, but more importantly, live below your means. Because what do you
Mm.
need? Once you get everything you need, then it's about your wants. And if you can, curb your wants to the things that make sense. And we're gonna replay our town hall with her during the holiday break because I
And
will never
Karen,
hear her
that's
again.
the
Yep.
this is the other part though, right? It's a lot of people that have that name and that fame, but they don't got they you think they got money because you know their name. Or you think they got it like that because you just, oh, they always everywhere. But really they pushing the same car you could be pushing. They riding and driving, renting, whatever, the same stuff that you're doing. But it's the name that we associate. It's like, yo, they must be big time. But they got big time bills. They got big time debts that they owe people for putting them in these places. It's, a lot of these deals that people have to make, it's very much like you're here, but we kind of own it.